Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you're located. My name is Karen Righthand. I'm the Vice President of Corporate Marketing at SCS Global Services, and I'll be your host today. On behalf of everyone here at SCS, I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar. And before we get started, I'd like to introduce the platform that we're using for our webinar today, GoToWebinar. You're all in listen-only mode, and that eliminates any unnecessary background noises during the presentation. So you've all been muted, and it'll be a one-way presentation. But if you'd like to ask a question, and we hope that you do, please go to the questions section in the control panel in the upper right-hand side of your webinar console. You can type in your question and hit send, and do it at any time during the presentation when a question comes to mind. So depending on the time allotted at the end of the presentation, we'll make every attempt to answer all your questions, and any questions we're unable to answer will be responded to after the event by one of us. And today's presentation is being recorded, so don't worry, it will be emailed, the recording will be emailed to all the participants after the webinar. With that, I'd like to just tell you a little bit about SCS Global Services. Next. We are a 40-year-old organization with deep experience in global third-party sustainability certification, consulting, and standards development. We've done work in over 125 countries for 15,000 clients, and we have auditors in every major market. This is our institutional network. SCS Global Services is the certification, verification, and auditing body. The standards development organization is SCS Standards, which is an independent standards creation organization. And we have also an independent consulting services division and a newly launched global warming initiative called the Global Heat Reduction. We reach basically every sector of the economy. Today we are talking about electronics, but we have experience in pretty much every major sector of the economy. And we have auditors all over the world. So with that, I would like to turn it over to Nicole Munoz. She is our Vice President of the Environmental Certification Services Division at SCS. And please remember, as she's presenting, to go ahead and type in any questions you might have. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. And thank you everyone for joining us today to learn more about the Recycled Content Standard Annex for electrical and electronic equipment and how to leverage your certification through the Amazon Climate Pledge Friendly program. For a little bit of background on the standard development, SCS Standards published the standard following a multi-stakeholder process with industry leaders and NGO representatives, including representatives like Closed Loop Partners, Logitech, Dell, HP, Microsoft, and a few others. All of these are spanning sectors that provide leadership in the space of electronics and recycling. The process allowed for open conversation to identify opportunities to lead the industry by focusing on and incorporating increasing levels of recycled materials through manufacturing and the supply chain. It also is providing support and innovation in the sector. This leads to a standard that is moving the dial to support rapid change in the industry with a perspective of reevaluating the standard on a more frequent cadence than any other standards currently in the market. So what is the purpose of the standard? The purpose is to set a higher level recycled content thresholds for the electronics industry, specifically and understanding the constraints of sourcing and limitations in recycling for required materials. Hence, the stakeholders that we had at the table for the standards development process helped in supporting these ideas while not sacrificing the longevity and performance of the product. The standard requires a minimum of at least 2 recycled material inputs at a minimum threshold and sets a product level threshold based on data and research discovered during the development of the standard. These requirements added with SCS recycled content requirements, an additional level of due diligence provides a comprehensive and leading standard for the recycled content for electrical and electronic products. The standard also sets a high bar for the product level certifications, promoting innovation and continual improvement. It provides a motivation to increase the use of recycled material inputs while keeping up with the changing innovations across the industry and globe. Who can use the standard? It's ideal for OEMs and brands to initiate the process with a certification. And how are you going to achieve certification with the process? We can get this done in 4 steps to start in assessing your pre-assessing your eligibility. First is downloading the standard on our SCS standards webpage. Here's a look at that in the slide. Next, start with evaluating your products. So within the standard on table 4 of the standard is a list of all of the products and their product level thresholds. Every product type is listed in here with the minimum total recycled content in the last column. Next, evaluating your materials. So as mentioned before, the recycled material minimum input is at least 2 recycled material inputs. So looking at your products and looking at your material inputs, you can evaluate what are your inputs and if they meet those minimum recycled material input thresholds for recycled content. It's broken out with metals and plastics. Next is calculating your recycled content for the product with the correct number of recycled material inputs. So determining your recycled content claim for the product, collecting all of the data and supplier data and third-party certificates so you can calculate the full product recycled content percentage. And in the corner on the slide, you can see that an example of this would be determining 45% recycled content with the speaker. So that's including all of the bill of material information and assessing what recycled materials you have within the inputs. But what happens if your product is not listed in the standard? What happens if you don't have enough recycled materials inputted into your product due to other limitations? You can request an interpretation or variation request through SCS standards. Here is a form that includes all the details to complete on the standards interpretation and variation request. You can also start with consulting your audit team, reaching out to SCS to assess your alternative paths in this. There are exceptions within the standard based on different criteria. We can support with that in identifying if there are exceptions that can be made, or if nothing is related to with it or documented within the standard, that's when the interpretation and variation requests come into play. This was developed in support of because this is a new standard. There are opportunities for improvement and continual improvement, specifically in regards to not potentially including all of the product types, as this was in a development and discovery phase. We have added additional product types in the process, and we'll continue to do that. So once all of those pre-evaluations are completed, you can begin on your step to the certification. This starts with an application submission, quote, and contract, and then submitting your data and going through the process to lead to certification decision. The certification starts in several different steps, marched down by initiating the process in regards to asking for a legal compliance affidavit. This is a new addition to the SCS recycled content standard specified in the annex. We're looking to make sure that you have declared that you are in compliance with the requirements, legal, government, regulatory requirements, and any product level initiatives as well. We're also looking for material due diligence, ensuring that you have reviewed your supply chain, you have KYC if you have specified precious metals like gold, 3Ts, cobalt, platinum, palladium. And we're looking to assess your data within the last 12 months. There are exceptions to this as there are new products that are in development. There could be an R&D phase. So this would be a step to consult with your auditor to assess what is the appropriate data period that you should be submitting data in. But standard would be 12 months. Step 4 is evaluating your bill of materials, inputs, and total products. In your total products. This was also established in kind of your pre-evaluation of your products to meet the eligibility. So putting those documents together, if there's data for the last 12 months or whatever is specified and agreed upon between you and your auditor, that would be also submitted and evaluated. Looking at your material input evaluation. What this means is looking at the standard and assessing what materials, recycled material inputs were not included in your evaluation or use of recycled materials. This could be due to lack of availability, issues with performance within the product. So whatever that may be, it's evaluating the whys in which you're not unable to incorporate more recycled material. We're also looking at your total production during the review period. This supports with us calculating the mass balance of the product, that you have enough available recycled material to support your end product claim. Purchasing and inventory records, this also is supporting in the mass balance calculation, ensuring that you have purchased enough recycled material within the data review period to support the final product claim. Additionally, verifying your suppliers have the appropriate certifications and affidavits to confirm they are supporting you with the correct recycled content. An on-site audit is completed. It could be virtual, it could be on-site, depending on the risk assessment. Evaluate it with the auditor and your team. Quality control procedures, this is standard within the recycled content standard, as this is the baseline for the assessment, where we're ensuring that there's traceability, chain of custody, and confirming that you have a process in place to assess your suppliers to ensure consistent production of the final product claim. The final assessment by the auditor is completing the final report, ensuring that any nonconformities are closed out, and finalizing the calculations for the final product claim. And then a certification decision is made by the SCS team. So we've gone over the details of this, and this is a bit of a review, but essentially, again, we're looking at the data collection and analysis. Again, we're building upon the recycled content standard and adding additional levels of requirements, including legal compliance, KYC, and material input review, and drafting the report and following our normal procedures for certification decision. For an ongoing maintenance of the certification, we do require renewals. Those are completed on an annual basis to maintain your certification and to validate the product claim that you have for the product. Additionally, you can add to scope during your certification period at any point to expand the products, new product types, or different suppliers. At the end of the process, the certification and benefits include your final certification. So an example here of speakers and recycled content and the final claim of the product, and any other additional declarations to include on the certificate. In this process, you are finalizing your certification feasibility in terms of ensuring that your sustainability efforts demonstrate the highest level of performance. We're supporting on the transparency in the product's claims with the certification and the claims and the logo use, and promoting innovation in the recycling process. So the more materials that you include that are recycled inputs, ensuring that you are leading the industry. And there is the opportunity to include your logos and certification on the SCS Green Products Guide. This is a simple snippet of that. Includes your certification, your products, and your claims. And then there is an opportunity to also include on the Amazon Climate Pledge Friendly badge on the Amazon.com website, and to highlight your sustainability features. So an example of this is, as you see here, the badge includes what your recycled content logo is and what it means, and then also sustainability features are located in the ASIN numbers in the website for the product. Are there questions now that we're at the end of that?
Right. Thank you, Nicole. We do have a couple questions, and I would ask anyone that's listening to go ahead and type in your questions if you have another question. One question that was asked is, you know, if I get the certification, then how do I go about getting recognized in the Climate Pledge Friendly program?
Sure. So in the process, we do request the ASIN numbers for the products that are being requested to be assessed. And we will gather the ASIN numbers, and as part of our process and agreement with the Amazon platform and the Climate Pledge Friendly program, we'll upload those certified product ASIN numbers into their system, and then once that upload goes up, those will be badged onto the website.
Great, great. Here's another question. You mentioned there's like a pre-assessment. What if my product doesn't meet the Annex standard requirements and I only have one recycled content input that's, you know, at the right threshold? What do I do then?
For exceptions to the rules, the auditor will work with you in regards to identifying what those specific exceptions are within the standard. So one exception is if you do only have one recycled input, it's evaluating the product. If that one material input comprises or is 50% or more of the total product weight, that product is eligible for certification because it is more than 50% by weight. If there are other exceptions, such as the product is maybe less than 50%, you can submit, as noted before, a variation request. This could be in terms of possibly that was the max material input you were able to put in based on availability of recycled materials, based on limitations of legal requirements of the performance of the product, or electrical issues that might need to make sure that you're in compliance. there are additional assessments that we can do to validate if you are or are not eligible based on those exceptions.
Okay, okay. And again, what do I do if my product type isn't listed in the Annex standard right now?
Sure. So with that, there is the opportunity, because we are growing this list of different product types. We have recently published an updated version with some new product types, and the process was to submit your request to add a product type to our SCS standards group. What they will do is evaluate if that is within the certain criteria of the product type data that we have on hand. Or we may request more data from you to confirm if this is something that we need to add and pass through the technical committee for review. If further review and data collection is needed, we will work with you, as there would be an additional fee for that, for the review and research of adding that new product type in.
Great. And you mentioned that it gets renewed on an annual basis. So is the renewal process, what do I have to do to renew every year?
Sure. So, following our normal procedures for our recycled content renewal process, prior to your expiration date, our recycled content program team will reach out to you, typically 3 to 4 months in advance, and send notification about your upcoming expiration date for the certificate, or certificates, and request if you would like to continue with the renewal process, and we'll set you up with the next steps. And that would be an additional fee, and also we would set you up with the auditor and data request forms to validate the information.
Great. Well, that appears to be all the questions that we have for today. I want to thank everyone for attending. Again, the recording of this webinar will be emailed to you as a follow-up. And certainly, if you have additional questions, would be interested in certification, please visit our website. And with that, on behalf of Nicole and SCS Global Services, I'd like to say thank you and good afternoon. Bye-bye.